Hello and welcome to today's SGIA webinar, Market Expansion with Sublimation. My name is Dan Marks. I'm SGIA's Vice President, Markets and Technologies, and I'll be serving as the moderator for today's program. On behalf of SGIA, I would like to first welcome you and let you know that our webinar system allows you to ask questions through your computer. So if you have questions at any time, even now, feel free to submit them. We'll provide a period at the end of the formal presentation for some Q&A, but submit those questions whenever you have them and we'll get to them when we have the opportunity. Before we start the formal presentation, I'd like to introduce today's presenters. First is John Ingram. John is a Global Marketing Director for Sawgrass Technologies Industrial Division. He develops and implements marketing strategies for digital printing systems and software. He has over 25 years of experience in high-quality inkjet printing systems, which includes pioneering photographic inkjet technology at Iris Graphics, developing color management and workflow solutions for leading RIP manufacturers, and being representative in 2 European Union-sponsored commissions for the implementation of sustainable inkjet printing systems for digital textile production. He received his MBA from Bentley College in Management and Organizational Behavior and his BS in Imaging Science from RIT. He's also been awarded 3 patents in the area of color management and half-toning technology. Next up is David Gross from Condi. After graduating from Auburn University with a degree in electrical engineering, David spent 11 years designing and building laser printers at QMS, a mobile company credited with the development of the first desktop printers. He left QMS in 1992 to found Condi Systems, where he serves as President and Director of Technical Support. He and his wife, Monica, have 3 children, and they live in Mobile, Alabama. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce John and David. Welcome.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
So our presentation is, please. The presentation this afternoon is on market expansion with sublimation. David and I are looking forward to going over a number of things, since sublimations are a very special area for us in terms of printing these days, and so we're trying to show you how you can leverage sublimation technology and how to gain more customers.
Yeah, John, Dan, thank you. It's a pleasure being here. David Gross. You know, when I tell people I wake up in the morning and I drink the sublimation Kool-Aid, and it has just been a blast and a great ride all these years to see sublimation basically has gone absolutely viral in the digital world. It's our ADD mentality. I want what I want now. I want it my way. And after all these years, guess what, John and Dan and our folks listening in, sublimation indeed is a technology that delivers that need.
Yes, and to add to that, as you'll see from the products here, sublimation is touching our lives in every which way in terms of, as we show here, from everything from phones to metal display signage, and it's really amazing. David and I have been talking over the last few weeks about this and how it's really becoming ubiquitous and everywhere that you see that sublimation technology is available. So in terms of the focus of the webinar, we have 2 goals that we're hoping. One is that if you're not sublimating today, why would you like to start? And then secondly, for those people that are currently in sublimation, we're trying to find some ways to help you expand your business and give you some ideas and tricks that we've learned over the last few years to assist you. So I want to just give a brief summary of the sublimation process for those who are maybe not familiar with it. One of the reasons why you'd even want to start with inkjet sublimation is it's ideal, like most inkjet technologies, for short-run applications. And as I point out here, it can work on a variety of substrates, as we're going to show, for the different applications, and that's sort of its flexibility. And one of the things that people are finding more and more, and I'm going to talk about this especially with metal printing, is the fact that you've got this rub fastness and infused right into the material, so it's not going to come off. It's also wash fast. So these things, from its permanent standpoint, it's really exceptional in terms of the printing technology. For those out there that are familiar, obviously, with screen printing technology, there's no need, since the digital printing system, there's no need for screen preparation and cleaning and all the added work that you need to do for that. And then from a textile printing application, which is also can be screen printing as well, there's no steaming or washing steps afterwards. So it's really a very easy system to get started with for those who want to get into digital printing, as well as being a really great technology to be able to work with a variety of different substrates in a way that, again, is rub fast and is wash fast and water fast. So there's two main types of sublimation printing technology. The first is transfer, and I usually use the 3 steps in any kind of sublimation technology, which is prep, print, and press. Preparation being all the design work that you need to do to get your job ready for printing. So that's everything from your layout, your color management, if you're using a RIP, making sure that your the PDF file, for example, is interpreted correctly for printing. So in the next step, once you have it prepped and ready to go, you send it down to the printer. In a transfer sublimation process, you have your traditional inkjet printer with specialized inks. In this case, these inks are sublimation inks. For example, it's Sawgrass is the Sublime ink. And the ink is actually printed onto a special transfer paper. This transfer paper is then put in contact in the third step here with press. You put these transfer paper in contact with the substrate you want to print on, and under heat and pressure, and the material itself has to be a polyester, either coating or a polyester fabric to work. You press these two together with heat and with temperature, and the inks themselves actually infuse into the polyester material. So they become actually bonded into the polyester to produce the final product. So that's the transfer sublimation process. In direct sublimation, the steps are essentially the same, but in the print step, instead of using a transfer paper, you actually print directly onto a treated polyester fabric. So this fabric is able to receive the sublimation ink, and then when you put it into a press, and as I show here, typically it's done in rotary heat press, which we'll talk about later. You actually are putting again the heat and a light pressure onto the polyester fabric to actually infuse the dye and the inks into the polyester material. The benefit, of course, with direct sublimation is that you can actually control the amount of penetration of the polyester or the inks into the polyester. So you can have, for example, double-sided printing. So that's usually why people will choose direct over transfer. Now we've given a very, very broad stroke overview of sublimation technology. I want to cover some of the printing solutions that are available in the market. Most people, when they get into dye sublimation printing, fall into 3 main categories. The first is in a small format, then the second would be our large format, and then the third is high speed. Each one of them has their advantages and their limitations in terms of what you can do for different sublimation printing techniques and applications. So starting with the small format, typically with a small format solution, you'll start with a printing system for your preparation. And in all of these systems, people are using the design stuff like CorelDRAW for designing images, or Illustrator, or Photoshop, or a variety of graphics tools that are available. Once they've got that image created in their graphics tool, they will then send it out to the printer. In the small formats, typically they'll send it out either through the Windows print driver, or they can use alternative products such as Sawgrass's Power Driver, which is set up. It's a virtual power driver or a virtual printer driver that allows you to print to the printing system. Once you use that system, the next thing, of course, is your printing system itself. Typically, in the small format, you're looking at print sizes between letter size and legal. I'm giving 2 examples of printers that are used traditionally for sublimation. These are also office printers, so they've been used a dual role here, but they've been now converted over for sublimation. And then in terms of the press, there's a variety of options, but typically for the small format, most people are having a 16 by 20 inch press or smaller. And I'm giving an example here. This is a Geo Night press, the BK20S, I think here, and that's a swing away press. That's pretty typical of the type of system that people would have. Now, as I mentioned, the print sizes range from letter to legal size. Your print speeds are running about 1 to 2 pages per minute. because you're usually running these in a high-quality mode. These are exclusively transfer sublimation machines, and your system cost is running between $1,000 and $2,000 to get started. Now, in terms of the small format solutions, they have a lot of advantages. One is that if you're doing small decoration work, these things are fabulous little machines or systems that actually go out and print onto either garments or onto tiles or glass or any of the other applications we're going to talk about. They have a very, very small footprint. You know, we're talking about an office printer in this case, so it can go on a table. And your actual full print production can be done in a very small office, which is really great to get started. Your maintenance is very small relative to some of the other printing systems. They're essentially the same work that you do for an office inkjet printer would be the same as you're doing for these systems. They're very easy, as I point out, to have multiple units. So if you want to expand out to have redundancy, let's say, for example, you want to have 2 machines running in parallel, that's how you can actually increase your productivity relatively quickly. And if one's down, as I point out, you can easily just take that out and swap it out. In some cases, people consider the small format printer as almost a consumable in their own right. If they break down, they literally just put a new printer in its place. And another thing is the main advantage for a lot of people getting the small format is that it's very profitable for small business turnover. If you're just getting started out and you're making a few, samples or a few products for people in the beginning, but you're not getting a lot of run rate, you're not breaking the bank to get started. And I think this is, in many cases why people start at this route when they want to get into sublimation print. Some of the disadvantages or limitations: it's limited in terms of its print size, it's transfer only. It's certainly not designed for high volume. And again, as I pointed out, it's not an industrial printer. So if something happens to the printer, typically you have a tendency to just replace the unit rather than trying to fix the actual printer itself. Now, moving from the small format, we want to get into large format solutions. Things get a little bit more expensive and a little bit bigger. You have, instead of using the print driver for the system once you're working with Illustrator or PowerPoint, or Illustrator or Photoshop, CorelDRAW, typically now you're working with a software RIP to do your color and print production. The printing systems typically are running in the range of 24 inches to 125 inches. And these range in metric size. This means they're going up to 3.2 meters. Typical printer manufacturers include Epson, Mutoh, Lumaki, Roland. You'll see them if you read the SGIA journal. You'll see a lot of these printers advertised for sublimation applications. The press itself will be a little bit larger. Typically, customers are either users of the technology are either using flatbed systems or they're working with rotary presses, depending on how their actual throughput, the type of application, and their budget. In terms of the print speeds, we're running between 125 to 200 square feet per hour. Again, depending on the quality and how fast you want to run the system. These systems have the ability to do transfer as well as direct, so you have that flexibility with a slightly higher cost price tag compared to our small format. So we're running in the range between $20,000 and $150,000. Again, depending on the press and the printer and the software that you use. Advantages: you have the flexibility to do large and small jobs. So you could do all the stuff that you could do at small format, plus you can get bigger sizes if you need it. You have the option, as I pointed out, to do transfer direct, and you have the ability, using the RIP software and the fact you've got this larger print area, to be able to nest multiple jobs on the page to get advantages of economies of scale on the printing sheet. Limitations: it's a higher startup cost. Anybody who's gotten into this knows that this is, you're now going from $2,000 to $20,000 as a minimum to get started. So that's a much bigger cost structure to get involved. You're going to need a larger space for these printers. You need a little bit more printer expertise. Usually you want to have some expertise in color management, which you learn as you start working with these systems. You'll have a little bit higher operational costs. These aren't the same as just a plain old office printer, so that you have to keep in mind when you're trying to work with these. But you're going to have a little bit more work with these to actually run them and operate them. And probably the most important thing from this, I find with customers, you've got to have enough business for this to be profitable. If you buy one of these units, you've got to have enough throughput going in to be able to say, all right, I can actually justify the cost of these larger, larger printing systems. And the last solution I want to cover is the high-speed systems. These have basically come of age over the last couple of 3 years, I would say, with the improvements in printhead technology. Again, you're using a software RIP to get started for your preparation. Again, this is almost required in this case because you're doing so much more. The print speeds are higher. You have to do layout. There's, in fact, a lot of pre-processing that's actually done before you actually go into the printing system, which will, in many cases, has its own computer system to control jobs and where things will be printed onto the page. Typical printers, there's a number of them. The ones that are more common in the industry are made by MS and Reggiani. And these are much larger systems. We're talking 70-inch or 1.8 meters is traditional size for these printers. Their speeds, as I'm pointing out here, are much higher, 700 square feet and higher. And as I point out over here on the other side is that we have usually you're using a rotary press because these are roll-to-roll systems. These are not designed for flatbed. It could do it, but it's not really designed for flatbed heat presses. The price of the systems vary widely. Depends on how many print heads you have, number of colors, and the like. But they start out at about 140 to 150,000, and then they go completely up again, depending on what you put onto the printing systems. There's advantages, by far the highest productivity. You need to, if you're trying to run a lot of material through, this is the type of printing system to have. They're the lowest print cost per square foot, without question. You have one operator. You could have one operator running a large format, and then the same operator could run one of these MS printers, and the productivity is, significantly higher. You have the option to do transfer direct, like you have with the large format, and again, you have the ability to nest the jobs again in like the large format. With the higher speed and the higher cost comes everything else that's related to high speed. You're going to have higher startup costs, larger footprint, far more maintenance operation. You're going to have a higher level of expertise required to run this, and you've got to have a large volume of business to make this a profitable operation for these solutions. And last but not least, with the small format and the large format, it's relatively easy to build redundancy into your cost structure and have 2 or more printers running at the same time, just in case one is down in your production house. But with the high-speed system, you're going to make 2 or more of these, your investment is significantly higher. So we've talked about sublimation, we talked about the printing solutions that are available. Now I'd like to talk about how to expand your business. David and I talked about this at length, and we came across that we thought that 3 of these items were probably the key factors when you're looking at expanding your business. The first is the substrate, the type of applications you want to pursue, and keep continuing to look for new applications and new substrates as you're going forward. The second is design, how to leverage design, and how to leverage sales and marketing. I will cover the substrate and applications part, and then I'll let David take over and talk about the design and the marketing. So starting with applications, we talk about hard surface applications, and this is all the areas where non-textile related. Almost all of the materials I'm going to talk about in the hard surface have the same basic requirements. They all have a polyester-coated substrate, regardless of the materials that they're the actual base substrate itself. Almost all of them are done by transfer printing. It's rare to see direct printing, although I have seen it. In terms of the presses, almost all of them are using some form of a swing wave press, large format press, or a specialty press, depending on the actual final product that's actually being printed onto. And then if there's any additional finishing, there's usually some form of finishing that's being done. The second thing about the hard surface is that they're primarily done in the small format and large format. There's very few people that I'm aware of that are actually using the high-speed systems for hard surface application. So the first one I want to cover is metal. As the industry's been hearing from time to time, is that metal is the new canvas. So people are going out if they want to take a photograph and they see this on metal and they're just, astounded at the quality. And it's just so beautiful to look at the color and the rendition and the gloss level. And then when they find out that, you can splash water on it, it doesn't stain, and you can, within reason, it has some, it's rub fast, and it's really, I think it's taken off significantly in terms of, a medium in terms of photographic, applications, both for canvas and for paper printing. And again, as I point out, these are used mostly in the small format and the large format, and the sizes can range from, I've seen, small, little, very, very small prints made on metal in the 2x2 inch range, and I've seen plates that 44 inches and larger, and people will, as we show here, they'll stack them up or have them in different arrangements for, for artistic applications. Second application is glass. Coming out, again, it's a polyester-coated material for transfer printing. Number of applications. This is an application we're showing here where we have a room divider. Again, it's just like we had with the metal. Your transfer printing, you have your traditional swing-away press or large format press to work on this. You might have a specialty press if you've got curved glass, and you might have to do some finishing to get it into the, putting holes or having to cut edges and stuff to get the right application. But as you can see there, it's definitely a possibility, and it's certainly, David has pointed out to me, is that this is certainly a up-and-coming technology that people are looking at more and more to offer their customers. Next area is ceramics. A lot of people are familiar with using sublimation printing both for tiles and mugs. The materials, as I point out here, is actually a ceramic tile material that's polyester coated, or in the case of a mug, you're doing transfer printing again. And in the case of a cup, you have a specialty press, and if there's any additional cutting and finishing that needs to be done. Again, this is a very traditional use for sublimation technology, but I definitely see this expanding as time goes on. So if you're actually working in one area, this is certainly a very great area to try to expand your business. And the second to last thing I want to cover is the phone cases. As everyone's aware, you probably see phone cases on the market that have been personalized, and certainly sublimation is one of the key technologies for doing that. There's two forms I'm showing you here with a metal and a polycoated plastic insert. The other way is to actually print onto a polymer or a plastic material that then has a specialty press, or what's called a 3D press, to actually go around the material. I wanted to ask David, you did mention something that there's going to be something in the new iPhones that people should be aware of when they're doing the sublimation printing, and I wondered if you could comment on that.
Sure, John. Basically, the evolution of iPhones, things like that, are ubiquitous in our lives, and so when Apple introduces the family of the iPhone 6 new phones, they most likely will introduce a new feature called Near Field Communications, an NFC. That feature is a little scary because it allows the phone to become your debit card, if you will. You'll be able to use your phone to purchase with, and so with that new feature will be a fourth antenna, and that fourth antenna is obviously weak for security reasons, and so many of the covers that we do today, there's a metal insert. Well, metal is going to be too much for that antenna, so we have moved to plastic inserts. This is an extremely high-tech plastic, a very, very tough substrate, abrasion-proof, and so forth. And so you'll see changes in technology. Interestingly enough, Samsung with the S4 and S5 already have near-field communications, but until Apple blesses the technology, no one really will use it. So never a dull moment in the world of devices and things like that. So exciting, and the good news is me being an electrical engineer, sort of ahead of the game in keeping up with this market. But the device cover market is a viral market like I have never seen before. And so tremendous success, very exciting products. But at this point in time, we've got sort of a two-horse race between Apple and Samsung.
Thank you, David. Yeah, this is the thing to keep in mind as you're buying inventory for phone cases. So in the last area I want to cover on the hard surfaces, ceiling tiles. This is something that David introduced to me, and I think it's an excellent new application where you can actually go and get polyester-coated 2x4 foot ceiling tiles, transfer printed, and you can actually make these beautiful seams on the surface or on your ceiling to actually produce some very interesting and unique designs. And again, another unique way of using sublimation technology that's out there and available if you have the press that's big enough and the printing system that's big enough.
Yeah, imagine, John, just for a second, imagine going into your dentist and, you're being tortured, of course, and you look up and you've got a very serene ceiling to look at. It relaxes you, or whether you go into a daycare, you've got a appropriate ceiling there. So the takeaway is for the digital decorators out there, think outside the box and make some sales calls into these environments. I think it'll pay off for you.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely, and it's amazing what I keep seeing over and over again in terms of how people they're coating things with polyester and they're printing on them. So it's like,
yeah, John, this tile is made of polyester fibers, so it's a fibrous, compressed fibrous tile. So no coating. It meets the fire and safety standards necessary. And in this is our break room, and we went over the top. We actually put a sublimation film over the lights, but I turned off the lights when I took this photograph. So it's a complete kind of thing. It literally glows in the dark. Just an awesome. Of course, you got to do some work to come up with an appropriate image, but that's the fun of it.
Exactly. I think this is, as you're going to point out a little bit later about how leverage the design. It's one thing to actually have that technology, but it's also equally important to be able to have a unique design that you can sell to your customer base. So moving from hard substrates, I want to talk about some of the tech applications. The first one would be pillows. It's a very common one. You can either buy blanks out of polypropylene, or you can actually get fabric itself to do cut and sew. Again, this can be done in small format for small pillows as well as for large format. Their majority is done with transfer printing, and again, for if you're not doing buying actual blanks, you can actually get the fabric itself. I know a number of people that are doing this and actually doing the cut and sew operation, especially popular in the southeast regions here. Next area is socks. This is a growing little business in terms of using poly-knit socks to transfer print on. They're again, it's a thing you can do both in small format and large format. Another area for the textile areas and t-shirt decoration, either a small little applique or you're going through the whole, doing a full coverage t-shirt. And most of the time these are poly-knit products that you can work with, and your transfer printing typically with a tacky transfer paper as opposed to a non-tacky. With the tacky will actually hold the transfer paper will stay in place when you're doing the actual pressing. And typically you're using a swing away press or a flatbed press for this application. Next area is the sportswear market. A number of companies, both in the U.S. and in the Americas, are doing a lot of this work to do customized sportswear and personalized sportswear. It's usually a poly knit material. Again, you're doing transfer printing with this with a tacky transfer paper. Sometimes there's coatings added to the finishes added to the polyester, but essentially it works the same for all these types of polyester materials. And again, the majority of this is using a rotary press for cut and sew applications. Another cut and sew operation and application is in women's apparel. This case, in case the material is a poly sheer or a poly chiffon. And in many cases, instead of transfer printing, people are printing directly onto these materials. And this is one of our first areas where you start getting into the high-speed areas as well as working with large format. And again, you're using a rotary press almost exclusively for these applications with minimal pressure, applied to it so you don't ruin the finish of the polyester. And then there's a lot of finishing and cut and sew operations that are done afterwards to produce the garment. And the last application I want to cover is soft signage. This is a very traditional digital textile application. It has been up to probably recently the majority of digital textile printing. The numbers back probably about 5 years ago were about 70% of all digital textile was done for signage. The materials that are used range widely depending on the type of application, type of signage we want to have. So again, Doc Oxford Poplin. Almost, with the exception of flags, which usually do direct, it's mostly transfer printing using a rotary press, and then there's some cut and sew operations that you're using to actually finish off the product. So I'm going to hand this off to David now to talk about leveraging design.
Okay, thanks, John. With sublimation becoming such a viral technology, I love to I go out there and teach a lot to different industries, different organizations, and ultimately it comes down to using the technology to make money. And I look at it from a point of view of three things: the underlying substrate, the decoration that's on the substrate, and then how you're selling and marketing the product. And so in this part of the world I live in Louisiana and so forth, we have a saying called lagniappe. Lagniappe simply means a little bit more. And so my first rule of thumb that I like the takeaway message is that when someone asks you to do a design or something like that, you should try to think outside the box. You should try to figure out how to add value to their artwork. So in this case, we've got a very nice-looking glossy ceramic tile. I think that's a 6x8 tile squashed a little bit on the screen there. And instead of just printing out a photograph and pressing it, what we've done, we've gone in and added a little some artwork, some graphics, a few words, and you've turned a product that maybe was nice and valuable into something that ultimately is now worth a whole lot more. And so in the photo gift industry, which is extremely popular, viral, this is going to separate you from people who are just slapping a photograph on a product. So you can carry this trend, if you will, and you could do multiple photographs. You can have some very nice templated products. But the point is that everything you do, figure out a way to add value to it so that you can keep that client coming back to you. Next slide, John. This is basically a different kind of artwork, if you will, different kind of decoration. And if you do the demographics out there, what you're going to find, and I'm sure everybody already realizes, that the young female demographic is spending tremendous amounts of money out there. And if you tell them, well, let's put a photograph on whatever product, or let's do something like that, that works to some extent. But that demographic, when it comes to apparel, when it comes to jewelry, when it comes to purses, you name it, they're looking for patterns, they're looking for monograms, they're looking for chevrons and things like that. And that's something you should be plugged into. I've talked to many people, and they think the chevron is where you buy gas. So you need to get plugged into that female demographic, because those folks out there are spending an incredible amount of money, and you know, it's a wise thing to get into it. The third thing, just to make a quick brush over decorating, is to tap into artwork. This is a young lady that we have worked with from high school. She's now in college, and she does no personalization. She does daughter, which is going to be a senior in high school. I said, what do you call this? And it's hipster art. And this kind of thing is just incredibly popular with everything from device covers and you name it. This lady has achieved over 100,000 followers on Instagram. And so the takeaway message here is you know, get out of your comfort zone, tap into the folks around you, and partner with folks that have this kind of talent. And you're sort of on the fulfillment side of this equation. They're sort of on the artwork creation. And so I think many partnerships, as we'll get into future slides here in just a second, many partnerships like this can add a completely new dimension to your business. Okay, let's talk a little bit about leveraging marketing. And you know, we talk about sales and marketing almost as one thing. John, next slide, please. All right, so 2 takeaway messages, and this is, I think, good messages for no matter what industry you're in, no matter what you're doing, and that is how to grow your business. And I think there's really 2 ways to do it. Number 1 is, how do you sell more to your existing clients? How do you profit more from the effort you put into your infrastructure, whatever it is that you already have in place? How do you do that? And then number 2, which I think is actually more important, or more, call it a much greater upside, and that is find new profitable clients. And a great book to read is Scott McCain's book on being distinctive in your business. And I used to go around telling everybody, be distinct or be extinct. And I think if you're settling into a very trend, if you will, that you're not pushing the envelope, you're not thinking outside the box, you're not trying to really show your distinctiveness, and I think ultimately that's going to cause some challenges down the road. So these are the 2 things you should be thinking about as you try to grow your business. Okay, so I think one of the easiest things we can do to grow our existing business, to sell more to our clients, is simply to add new products. And I talk to people all the time, and they tell me, I'm happy with what I'm doing. And they'll say, I don't particularly like that product. For instance, there's a set of flip-flops here. I wouldn't be caught dead with the set of flip-flops on my feet. I'm not a flip-flop person. Yet flip-flops sell incredibly well. And so my message here is grow your business, add new products, experiment with things, but don't let your personal opinions get in the way of making money. Don't be pigeonholed into it. For instance, one time I talked to, I teach to a lot of trophy people and other industries, and I said, of course it's a trick question, I said, you know, do you think you should be selling sublimatable purses? And this is the trophy business. And they said, well, of course not. And I said, well, who is the key decision maker that often comes in your shop when it comes to team sports? And we all know who it is. If our kids have played these sports, it's the team mom. Team mom is often making all these decisions. And the bottom line is, if you provide her a photo purse with the team photo on it, you've solidified that business forever. And so you need to try, you need to experiment, you need to show people these new products. For instance, name badges, I think, are one of the most profitable products because it's a B2B kind of thing. Sublimation does the best job of any technology, and so you need to be tapped into that. You need to add new dimensions to your business. You need to freshen your business up. And one of the easy ways to do it is just start experimenting with new products. Next slide, please. All right, this is a tough one for us men here, and that is that many of us that have storefronts, that is, we've not freshened up our storefront maybe ever, with new samples, new excitement, planting new seeds with our clients that come into our shop. And so bottom line is there's a great opportunity for you to expand your business if you simply take the time and trouble to put an attractive display. Now this is a tough one, so I think maybe the takeaway message is find that the feminine side of you, whoever it is, maybe an employee, maybe your better half, whatever, and start working on this. This particular photograph came from a film processor. So their exclusive business was processing film, doing enlargement, things like that. Well, guess what? They had a paradigm shift in their business. They lost essentially all the revenue when film stopped coming in the door. And this particular company truly reinvented themselves well outside of their traditional markets because they didn't exist anymore, and they're doing exceptionally well. For instance, they even have a part of their business for screen printing. And they're doing high volume gifting. So they'll hit the gift shows and you know, just a tremendous success story. And I think all of us you know, want to grow our business. The story that I tell is I ask people, do you have a slow season? And many organizations do have slow seasons. And I go, do you want to have a slow season? And the bottom line is, with an expansion of your products, with planting seeds like this, you can greatly grow your business, and you can get to those slow seasons. You know, a lot of folks, trophy shops, whatever, you know, they're not doing anything near Christmas, and Christmas is one of the hottest seasons for photo gifts, of course. Next slide. This is an easy one for everybody to do, and that is when you make a product, take a picture of it. And if you can, take a picture of it with the client who's receiving the product or whoever's picking it up, and start uploading those photographs to your Facebook page, upload them to Instagram, and show people what you're doing. I'll go talk to people and they'll say, you know, yes, my showroom looks pretty dull, but I'm turning out some great looking products for our clients. And I said, well, how in the world does your client know that you're capable of doing this? And so this is just a great way of doing it. If you think about a mug, for instance, you've got 1,000 different themes that are possible in a mug. Well, there's no way you have the showroom space to show all those themes. So what you do, you take pictures of them and let people know. And everybody that we're speaking with, I think, probably should be involved with social media. Take advantage of your Facebook page. Let people know what you're doing. And I can tell you that you're going to plant those seeds, and people are going to communicate with each other, and you're going to create a stream of folks that are looking forward to getting these products from you. This is just the Instagram page for a client of ours that he has a weekend business. This is at the flea market. He works 2 days a week, and it is a solid $60,000 a year profit business. Profit. It is, you know, flea markets are ultimately going to drive me insane, especially outdoor ones with heat and cool. But he really practices many of the things that we talk about with letting people know what you have and so forth. So an awesome success story. All right. Just as an add-on to taking pictures, if you don't already and you're lucky enough to have a storefront, install a flat screen monitor. And you know, they're inexpensive, they're great quality. Buy one that has a USB port. Put your files on a flash drive and show people the products that you're doing. And, of course, do the Instagram, Facebook. We, for instance, have at Condi TV, we have now a very large collection of unbranded videos for vertical markets, you know, pets, automotive, you name it, things like that. And those are great things for you to play on your flat screen as people are coming in. And again, the concept here is very simple. You're planting seeds about what you can provide your clients. All right, so as different industries that I speak with, some of them really, you know, don't get this at all, but I hope you're going to be the one to take this, and that is that everything that you produce that leaves your door should have the appropriate, what I'll call referral information. Many of the things you produce the person you're handing it to go out the door, that's not the person who's ultimately going to receive that product. And so you need to figure out a way to put your information on that product. In addition, if you can, put the file name or whatever you want to code in it, so that when somebody does call up and say, hey, I need another one of those, if you've got the appropriate file name or information on the product, whether it be a garment or something otherwise, then you're able to handle that request without asking 50 questions. And so it is essential that you figure out some way to do that. In the case of apparel, it's fairly easy. You can use transfer paper, print it, and into little labels and press them at the bottom of the garment or wherever. So it's easy to do. So almost every product will have a convenient way. This alone is an incredible way to grow your business. Just incredible. So you can ask us about, okay, how do I put my information on this particular product? For instance, on name badges, you can sublimate on the back side of most of the name badges, and you can sublimate additional information that's valuable to the company, for instance, you know, important telephone numbers or whatever. But this is something you must do. It will pay handsomely in dividends. All right, this shifts a little bit into finding new profitable clients. What wholesale fulfillment really is just you're hiring a new sales force, and guess what? They're commission only. And so it's a low overhead way to grow your business. And I use 3 examples here. First is pet grooming. I think everybody should seek out the best pet groomer in your area and work a partnership with them, set up a display, and show them the products that you can make for them, for the folks that are coming in with their pets. Could be a dog collar, a dog leash, could be a pet mat, could be a pet bowl, it could be an iPhone cover with their pet on there. My dad passed away last year, 50-plus years as a veterinarian, and so it is a market that is incredibly profitable. People will spend, as everybody knows, people will spend gobs and gobs of money on their pet just to make it look nice. So this is a way for you to work a partnership. You give them a little bit of the profit. That's the sales commission, if you will. And I think you'll be very successful. The second sort of dimension to it is to push we'll call it the digital decorating world, the on-demand kinds of products into the fundraising world. If you have kids, you know how dull the existing fundraisers are. You get out there with a fundraiser, it could be a Christmas ornament. There's so many great ideas out there, and you're tapping into, whether it be the PTO, schools, the athletic department, or whatever. And I think it's a very simple way to add a completely new dimension to your business. Then you can look for other folks to tap into. It could be, in this case, I'm suggesting that you hit some of the smaller independent cell phone stores. So great opportunity. By the way, when you do this kind of stuff, you change your referral information that you're putting on the product. You would then put the pet groomer's information on there to have them come back to them. So everything sort of works together to grow your business. Next slide, please. A trend that a lot of folks now are doing, and that is they have maybe a smaller sublimation system, say 3110 with a JP14 heat press, and they'll actually go and set up at events and take advantage of really what we call spontaneous buying opportunities. And so it could be a car show, it could be a school event, a Christmas bazaar, you name it. In this case, I'm showing the car show and a pet show, things like that. These are actually pretty easy to do. The equipment is light, so it is portable. And then if you add just a little bit more work to it, you can really be successful with it. It's obviously easy to process credit cards now. You're planting a lot of seeds. One of the things that I tell everybody to do is locate the dog parks in your area, for instance. Find out what is the foundation that runs the dog park, and call them up and say, hey, when are your events for your fundraisers? How can I be part of that? And you get plugged into that. You do pet tags, for instance. And then you're introducing yourself to all these folks. It can be incredibly successful. And once you sort of get plugged into these things, it carries a tremendous amount of momentum. So consider, getting a mobile system and getting plugged into these things that are happening around you. Sort of an interesting, as we get to conclude this part of the presentation. I went to some software developers, and I love talking to people and learning new things. And I asked the software developer to create a Facebook application that was quite simple. And all it did was it allowed you, who has the Facebook application, select products that you want to sell, and then you post it on your Facebook page, or you post it on your client's Facebook page. Let's say you're selling to a school. The end user goes to the Facebook page, they select the product they want, and they either choose from their Facebook photographs that are accessible, or they upload a Facebook photograph, and they create the design using a simple online designer, and then they check out. It couldn't be easier. And so this is the kind of stuff that people are looking for, and if you're the one providing it, guess what? You're going to get the business. And so this is something to check out. It's ridiculously inexpensive. It's about $30 a month. And this application will continue to grow extremely powerful. So this is probably, it's fairly new. Several hundred folks that have this now in use, and it is growing with features and things like that. So I suggest you check it out. I think it's a great way for you to really get some almost free business on your Facebook site, things like that. All right, well, as John and I have talked about, we've really covered a broad brush of sublimation and how exciting technology it is. And the bottom line is that every day when I wake up, I have really two things on my mind. Number one is what products can we bring to market, and then number two is how can we help people be successful, like with the Facebook app. For instance, in about 2 weeks, we'll be launching a sublimatable guitar pick. Very exciting. We created the new plastic for the iPhones and things like that. And by having a sublimation guitar pick, of course, it's abrasion proof. The plastic is appropriate for a guitar pick, and it just shows that there's almost an unending number of products and applications and things like that that are still tapped. One of the things I talked about is just that sublimation is like electricity. We just cannot see all the thousands and thousands of things that we can do with electricity, and it's like that with sublimation. So it's a technology that seems to have no end to it. In the applications, it has become inexpensive to do. It has become easy to do. And I recommend that folks out there, if they're not involved with it, they learn more about it. If you are involved with it, it's time to grow. It's time to do more. John, do you want to close this?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, David. Wanted to talk about some of the resources we have available. If you want to contact either myself or David, each of us are offering something for you to kind of look at from our side. On the industrial side, I want to show you, you can get from us a number of application case studies that we've done in different areas to see how other people have been successful with sublimation printing in the different applications. And David has a color chart that he'd be more than happy to provide to you, which is very helpful and informative. And by all means, you can use the email address that we have posted here.
Yeah, the color chart, John, just to clarify, one of the biggest technical challenges for people is they believe they can use their monitor for picking colors. So if you're trying to match a school color, trying to match a color on a business card, trying to match a Pantone color, you cannot use your monitor. And so to believe you brought home the magic monitor from the store is crazy. So I've tapped into some great palettes that are out there in Illustrator and Corel, put together a nice color chart, about 2,000 colors. You print it out, you sublimate it, you pick your color, you go back to the computer and choose that, and you're going to nail color matching. And color matching really separates the boys and girls from the grown-ups.
Correct, and that's been since the beginning of inkjet. So it's, if you don't have those skills, you need to build an SGIA, which is our segueing into next, is definitely the place to find out more about that. So we give very special thanks to Dan for allowing both David and I to present today. If you aren't already, I would highly encourage you to join SGIA at their website, sgia.org. Among the other things that you can get as benefits is certainly the journal. The SGIA journal is extremely helpful in terms of what's happening in the industry. They've just recently started a segment with, I think it's 4 times a year, Dan can probably clarify that, where they're doing a garment edition for digital textile applications as well. So that if you're interested in that, by all means, I would highly recommend that as well. And both David and I will be at Las Vegas for the SGI Expo, as well as Dan, October 22nd and 24th, and we highly recommend you come in there. We'd love to talk with you and show you sublimation printing. So that's leave it open to Dan and any additional questions.
Okay, yeah, we have time for just a few questions. I'll try to pepper these in here. First of all, there was a sample showed earlier in the presentation that was printed on glass, and the person asking the question said, how do you get a white point on clear substrates?
The technology that we use for this David Gross, the technology that we use for our coating, the sublimation coating looks relatively clear, but the magic, if you will, is when we sublimate into it, it becomes relatively opaque, so that it's viewable from both sides. It used to be, we would do a 2-part coating. One would be clear, one would be white, and we've had some advances the last couple of years that have allowed us to make progress. So probably the best way is for you to get a piece of our glass and try it for yourself, or we can help you do it. We can do it ourselves for you, but so that you can see the results. But they're nothing short of spectacular.
Interesting. There was an example of a person who was selling a lot of products, I guess, online.